The following program is the work of broadcast students from the British Columbia Institute of Technology. BCIT Magazine features news stories from around the Lower Mainland which were produced over the past week. Responsibility for the content of the show rests completely with the students and their instructors.
Today on BCIT Magazine, Vancouver calls for more federal dollars to save city infrastructure. First Nations remember a hero on Aboriginal Veterans Day. And TransLink cracks down on UPass fraud. Hello and welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Nathan Tennant. The City of Vancouver is backing a new proposal from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. The plan is calling for a national 20-year commitment with predictable funding to develop and maintain infrastructure. Franny Karlinski reports.
Overcrowded transit, escalating repair costs, and worn-out roads are all contributing to Vancouver's infrastructure problem.
You can't plan the repairs to the roof of your house based on the odds of winning a 649 lottery.
The Federation of Canadian Municipalities, with the support of Mayor Gregor Robertson, says Canada needs a 20-year plan to fix its crumbling infrastructure.
We propose an increase in federal funding for municipal infrastructure from the current $3.25 billion to $5.75 billion.
The annual boost is the key suggestion, but funds would need to be matched by the province and municipalities themselves.
This is just to catch up on infrastructure that's falling apart across the country, to reduce traffic congestion. We have been chronically underserved with transit here in Broadway Corridor, which forces 80% of the people working in this corridor to commute in by car because the transit service is not adequate enough.
More funding would give Vancouver some stability, but this development expert issues a word of caution.
What we need, and definitely the Canadian Infrastructure Plan supports this, is rebuilding the existing infrastructure. But what we don't want is expansion of an infrastructure system that we already can't maintain.
Canada's new infrastructure plan would work towards easing traffic gridlock and improving public transit. The Federation wants to get the plan approved no later than the next federal budget. Franny Karlinski in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
Aboriginal Veterans Day celebrates the military service of Canada's First Nations who work to protect the freedom in battles overseas while still working to bring those freedoms to their own communities. Camille McDonald filed this report.
With every beat, they say thanks. They're honoring Aboriginal veterans who fought for the equality of all people. But one such veteran is missing this year. Jimmy Nahaney passed away just before Aboriginal Veterans Day. He never missed a ceremony, making sure his family knew what it was like to fight in World War II as an Aboriginal person.
He talked about his experience around, the discrimination and racism, but when he got home, the respect wasn't there.
Jimmy inspired Robert to join the Army and continue the fight for equality. Robert joined in 1960, the year Aboriginals were granted Canadian citizenship. He thanks his uncle's generation.
They took that opportunity to do that, and he wanted that could continue. So that's what he did. He handed over this delegated volunteer to do this work, and I will do it as long as I can, and with the support of the families all the way around.
Despite the pain of his loss, Nahaney's family deeply appreciates his work to defend Canada and his Squamish community.
I am so full of my dad and how proud he was of all veterans and their sacrifices, that his spirit just lifted me to make sure to be here today and to give thanks.
It would bring a lot of happiness to him that all our warriors are getting recognized today and acknowledged for what they've sacrificed for our families and our country.
They take this day to remember him and all the veterans who stood up for the rights of Aboriginal peoples in Canada. Camille McDonald in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
For the first time ever, someone is facing fraud charges for selling their student pass, also known as a U-Pass. Transit police say this case represents one of many they are currently investigating. But Francesca Fionda found out not everyone believes the sale should be illegal.
In most students' back pocket is a U-Pass. While many see it as a great way to save money, some people see it as a way to make money.
The way I see it, it's just going to happen unless you change the system.
Ty refused to give us his last name or let us show his face. As a driver, he sees the U-Pass as a product he was forced to pay for but doesn't use. He says reselling the pass is the only option.
Give students options to pay or not, because hey, we students are not rich and we still pay for the U-Pass.
U-Passes are a mandatory purchase for students built into tuition fees. Anyone with a valid student card can come up to a machine like this, swipe their student card, and every month a new U-Pass will pop out. U-Passes cost students $30 a month compared to the $151 for a 3-zone pass. Ty isn't the only one trying to sell his pass. A search on Craigslist the week fraud charges were laid showed a long list of U-Pass sellers. Some people even selling more than one pass, prices ranging from $40 to $70. TransLink estimates it's losing $15 to $20 million a year to lost, stolen, and illegally resold U-Passes. The BCIT Student Association says people who resell jeopardize the U-Pass for everyone else.
These type of programs, to make them work, it's everybody needs to be in. What it is by the number of money collected, then it is able to subsidize or to be able to afford this type of program.
For now, students using transit can rely on the U-Pass to get around. But in January, BCIT students will get a chance to vote on whether to let the program stay or go. Francesca Fionda in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine.
Next on BCIT Magazine, Fort Nelson First Nations fight back. And Vancouver's oldest used bookstore is closing its doors.
This is me. And my mom and dad. And my big brother Alex. And Jack. This is the day I learned that sandals got their name from sand. That jellyfish aren't made of jelly. That stars don't just come from the sky. That the ocean is bigger than all of us. This is the day we all got to forget I was sick. This was my wish.
Last week, BC's Environmental Appeal Board ruled Fort Nelson First Nations had the right to take legal action against gas companies, harvesting billions of liters of water through fracking. On Tuesday, First Nations had strong words for those who are trying to take away their most precious resource. Jeff Clowers has more on this story.
They're refusing to look at the big picture and the cumulative effects and impacts of what's going on in Northeast British Columbia, the breadbasket for this province.
Members of the Fort Nelson First Nations gathered in downtown Vancouver on Tuesday to push for a reform in the relationship between First Nations, government, and gas companies. Lands Director Lana Lowe says the trio have had strained talks in the past, brought on by a disagreement on the long-term impact fracking has on the land and people in northern BC.
We're asking the province, we're asking industry to work with us so we can figure out, okay, you guys need this much water, is that okay? And if so, what are the effects going to be? We need to cap it. Right now it's just a free-for-all. It's a gold rush for water, and nobody seems to be concerned about that except for us.
While it's unclear whether there's a significant environmental impact, the amount of water being withdrawn has increased by a staggering amount over the last few years. This time-lapse graphic shows the water withdrawals in Fort Nelson First Nations territory since November 2006. As you can see, there was a significant jump in withdrawals starting in October 2010. The concern is that if the process harms the land, those who rely on it, like avid hunter Newt Lowe, will be left out in the cold.
What's really alarming to me is 3 years ago, I've noticed like, used to be abundance of fish. In my opinion, I'm a pretty good fisherman, and I went and I done my usual thing looking for fish, and I went 3 days, never caught a fish.
Without an agreement pending, legal action is the next step for Fort Nelson First Nations. They plan on fighting gas companies' ability to acquire water withdrawal licenses in court. Jeff Clowers in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
For a month now, one cancer patient from Surrey has been told the city's bylaw department doesn't have enough resources to enforce no smoking signs. But as Sana Rangwala found out, the city may have a new solution for smokers who break the rules outside the Fraser Valley Cancer Centre in North Surrey.
As David Teal wraps his little boy in a blanket today, he feels a sense of relief. But when he first found out he was having a baby, it was the same day he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. He says it was hard enough dealing with the cancer, but every time he went for treatment, he felt nauseous.
But what happens is when you come out of the clinic, or in and out of the clinic, there's probably 12 to 15 no smoking signs, and usually more smokers than not. They definitely, when you come out after a dose of radiation, you don't need to walk into a cloud of smoke.
In an email statement from the Provincial Health Services Authority, it defends its smoking policy. Our smoke-free policy goes beyond the requirements of the Provincial Tobacco Control Act and municipal smoke-free places bylaws, and prohibits smoking on the entire cancer centre grounds. The PHSA says they use signs to prevent people from smoking in prohibited areas.
I don't mean they're not well enforced. There's lots of signs, but people aren't obeying them. That's the thing.
I don't like having to walk through the smoke when I come out because I don't smoke.
As you can see, despite many signs like these, smokers outside the cancer agency continue to puff on. But Surrey's bylaw department says that's about to change.
The real issue is there aren't enough bylaw officers in the city to constantly monitor some of the areas that are problematic. So we took a more global perspective, and we're dealing with an education program, and hopefully that will help.
The education program, which will be run by Fraser Health, BC Cancer Agency, and the City of Surrey, is still in the initial stages. If the program goes through, Hornan says there will be a large focus on signage specific to patients, staff, and visitors. Sana Rangwala in Surrey for BCIT Magazine.
Vancouver's oldest used bookstore that has been open since 1946 is saying goodbye to its customers at the end of the year and shutting its doors for good. Carly Babcock has more.
After 65 years of business, Vancouver's oldest used bookstore is shutting its doors. Located on Granville and Broadway, ABC Book and Comic Emporium can no longer afford its $9,000 a month lease. Owner Louis Maybe, or Skip as most call him, says a number of factors played into the store's closing.
The internet provides a lot of entertainment for a lot of people, which is what we're in, like the entertainment business, reading. But in our particular case, we got knocked around a lot by TransLink and the new Canada line.
Sales were fine for owner Skip until TransLink decided to cancel the 98B line, which used to stop right in front of the store. Ever since the bus became non-existent, sales have significantly decreased.
That was 3 years ago, and that was sort of the final blow, so to speak.
Some customers still value a good old-fashioned book.
I'm a big fan of hard copy, and I'm a big fan of making sure that people don't sort of lose the history of certain industries, because that is important.
Customer Nina Angeline says she's upset the store is closing after so long.
I'm sad. It's unfortunate, though, the fact that books are, disappearing, and we're all a part of that, We all have our gadgets.
When the store closes at the end of December, Skip has one message to his customers.
Well, obviously I have to thank them because I got to do what I wanted to do for many, many years, and we've still got time. They can come in and own a piece of the Emporium.
Carly Babcock in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
If you have any questions or comments regarding this program, please visit us online at bcit-broadcast.com or bcitbroadcastnews.ca. I'm Nathan Tennant, and that's today's BCIT Magazine. Thanks for watching. We leave you now with a view of the Port Mann Bridge, open December 1st.